Giddey, down. Jalen Williams, down. Anyone else? I'm sure there will be. Michael Bolton. Are you injured?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and the age that you turn on your birthday is the age that you just completed, not the age that you are starting. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we're available on all platforms. So if I've got, or if you've got a thumb, I'll take one of them up. I'll take a comment. I'll take a bang. I'll take two of them, in fact, on the audio and the video side. So do that. It'd be great. Check out LockedOnDaily.com as well. Best newsletter, favorite team, free 5 days a week. It is National Wash Your Nose Day. So I cannot stress this enough, and I'm being serious from a medical background. Nasal irrigations, saline nasal sprays, goated. They're unbelievably good for any sort of thing. Just, again, to help in cold season, allergy season, flying in planes, dry environments. Put in that little spray up your nose, 5, 6, and you can't even overdo it. The saline spray, multiple times a day. Rinse, not even the full irrigation, just the spray. Bloody brilliant. Wash your nose. There you go. We're here to talk about the action on Monday. There are 12 games on. I'm going to try and do it quick. I know I won't succeed, but we're going to try to get through this so it doesn't take 35 minutes to get to the end. Just a couple of little notes to start off. We didn't know whether Kawhi would sit Tuesday or Wednesday. He's playing on Tuesday, so I'm going to guess that he's out on Wednesday. And then we do our very best on this show and playing fantasy basketball to try and figure out what's going on with the trends. The New Orleans Pelicans had a back-to-back, and the last set of back-to-backs they had, Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown sat, and the next game, Zion and CJ sat. All right, that seems like a decent enough plan. That's going to make it a little bit iffy with Olynyk. We'll see how we go. Then the last back-to-back they had, Bruce Brown sat the first game, but Olynyk played. Okay, that's weird. They're going to sit Olynyk on the same day as Zion and CJ, and then Zion and CJ sat on game 2, but Olynyk played on both games of the back-to-back. Okay, I guess. All right, fine. He's playing back-to-backs now. The very next game, a single standalone game on Tuesday, Kelly Olynyk is resting. If you can figure that out, good for you. Well done. You've cracked the code. The problem is you didn't crack the code because there is no code because it's completely against all semblance of logic. So now I just go, I don't know. I thought there was a decent plan. It seemed to make a little bit of sense. And now I just go, I guess anything's possible. So good luck trying to figure that out. We will do our best and we will get it wrong. What about the most added players on the fantasy basketball waiver wire? The most added player is Cole Anthony. Rightfully so, he continues to start. There will be duds, there will be good games, I understand it. The second most added player, Brandon Williams, after they lied to us and said, oh, he's questionable with hamstring tightness. You are a lying bunch of sacks of shit. A little bit. Except they've been lying all the way through. About injuries, about the trade. Bro, he pulled his hamstring. Why would you lie and say that he's questionable? Anyway, he didn't play. Shocking. I know. So I don't get it. Especially after Jason Kidd. I'll give him props. He said yesterday, yeah, he's not playing. He said that yesterday. So why? Anyway, hope you didn't get your hopes up. Brandon Williams is out. Still got those 9 games left, but who knows when he returns now. Kessler Edwards, he's got like 7 games left now. He was the third most added player because, again, there's still no Paul Washington Jr., so Kessler's going to start. He's going to play minutes. What's he got left now? 5 games? Okay. Dalton Connect with LeBron out. He did, in fact, start. Solid enough if you're looking for points and threes. Benny Mathurin with Tyrese Halliburton out. Solid enough with Halliburton out. And then Dylan Brooks, one of the most added players. I did not expect to see his name there. I guess people just scrambled to go and get Dylan Brooks because of the Amen Thompson injury. I'll say this, and I've said it a million times, and I'll say it again now. It is vitally important. We are, 5 weeks to go before the end of the NBA regular season? 5 weeks. When you make that decision and someone goes down and you go, who do I add? Or you're making this thing, or who's this guy? Do I have Dalton Connect or do I go Kessler Edwards? And if you're making a decision between two guys where you don't know who's going to be the worst player on your roster, the answer is nobody. The answer is none of them. The answer is you don't care. Caveats, of course, of if I'm playing a roto league and a weekly lock league and a daily venom stashing, blah, blah, blah. For the vast majority of us, we are playing to win this week right now. That decision is not important. And that's like, we're going to talk about that with the Giddey injury, with the Jalen Williams injury. The guys who likely replace them, the answer is probably nobody. It's probably, hey, that's a roster spot now where I can use to stream extra games in, and that is way more valuable than saying, what if Carson Wallace plays 27 minutes? It's not, who cares? You have to transition mindset, I believe, to have success. The most dropped players, Jackson Hayes, he is injured, cool. Duncan Robinson, I didn't expect that he would be dropped because they played today, but whatever. He's probably not in starting lineup, so see, whatever, that's cool. Bub Carrington, also totally okay. If he's going to move back and forward between the bench and between starting, you don't need to hold on to him, although there was an injury there as well. Kalinick was dropped. We thought he'd miss on the back-to-back on the weekend. He did not. He just had bad games instead. Now he's out again. It's fine. Bol, see you later. And then Zach Ricochet. We'll talk a little bit about Zach Ricochet later on. Don't worry about that part of it. Let's get into games, though, because obviously there is quite a bit for us to talk about here. Let's go to the first one. We're talking the Philadelphia 76ers, the Atlanta Hawks. The Sixers, of course, rolled out Lonnie Walker in the starting lineup with Kelly Oubre dealing with an ankle injury. Of course he was. But Jared Butler started in place of Andre Drummond. So it wasn't Boner time. It was Jared Butler time. And this is shaping up to be an annoying team. Because, by the way, after yesterday's game, Tyrese Maxey will be questionable for this game. Willie Nicholas? Willie? Doesn't seem that way, does it? So Maxey didn't play. I don't think Paul George is coming back again. And then also yesterday, remember Nick Nurse? Oh yeah, we're probably just elevating the minutes of these guys a little bit too much. We probably need to start bringing them down moving forward. So Quentin Grimes played 39 minutes today. He had 35, 7, 6, 5 threes, 3 steals, and a block. And for all the times that I've spoken highly of Quentin Grimes and how I just need him to get a chance, I'm not going to sit here and like double bird people. Because why would I? What's the point of that? But also like, I would literally be just lying if I said, I knew this was here. I knew we could do this, because I didn't. I didn't ever expect that he could, in the right circumstances, be an absolute goat like this. He's ridiculous. But a lot of his value is going to be tied to Maxey, George, Oubre. Do they play? And I think that for at least two of those, they don't. What we also got was Jared Butler starting. He was fine-ish, 11, 3, and 6. But this is the exact sort of line where you look at it and go, ooh, is Jared Butler an ad? And you go, no, unless it makes sense. Am I hitting a back-to-back? Am I hitting a 3 and 4? Because it's fine for that, but as a single gamer, no way. Jeff Doughton was actually the guy that stepped up. He had 17, 3 and 3 with 4 threes. He does have a two-way game limit. Beware of that. And it was also a game from the mayor, Ricky Council, who had 19, 4 and 3, but we can't really trust him. As for Boner, 23 minutes, 12 points, steal, block, 100% shooting. Reasonable game, solid game. Is it worth adding him? No. Unless you know that Yabusele is not out. And again, we talked about this with the Sixers yesterday, saying I think a lot of this stuff in the really low minutes is because it was the Jazz. And when you play against different teams, those numbers will rise. Now, you absolutely do not roster Yabusele in 12s, but I don't think you need to worry with Boner. And worrying with Boner, shout out to it, if we had a sponsor that would do that, I could just turn to camera like that, which I don't, and say, speaking of trouble worrying about boners, but I don't. Boner is just fine. I like him a lot as a player. I think he's got a really strong backup center career for 10 plus years. But holding down a roster spot in a fantasy league is just not going to be it. Lonnie Walker, who had a monster game yesterday, guess what he was? Bad. 11, 5 and 5, 29% because he is Lonnie Walker. And I don't actually care if he plays 32 minutes a night. He, to me, is not someone I am investing in. He's not someone I am devoting a standard roster spot to. 14-team leagues, knock yourself out. 16-teamers, absolutely. If the schedule makes sense and you're preserving moves, no problem. But as a general rule, when we're talking standardized stuff, 12 teams, 4 moves, that's not it. It's not worth it. Justin Edwards also horrible. 6 points in 20 minutes. I went a little bit long on that team because there is a lot to talk about with that Sixers squad just because of the backs and forwards. And the problem now is going to be, does Maxey play? Does Oubre play? Does George play? Because it changes everything. And does Grimes play 39 minutes a night? Almost definitely not. Not all the way through anyway. So we're going to be in this limbo purgatory type area. The Hawks. Trae Young copped a hit the last game they played, and then he didn't play. It was Keaton Wallace who started. Now, Keaton was relatively bad. 7 points in 31 minutes. He had 6 assists. He is useful as a stream guy when Trae is out, but that's about it. It was also a really good Dyson Daniels game, 25, 6, and 7. But early on especially, Zach Ricochet went crazy. He ended up with a very solid line. 22, 8 and 2, 3 threes, 31 minutes. And I know what's going to happen. I know. And I already saw the tweets. I already saw multiple tweets. Well, here's the reason that Zachary Ricochet was picked number 1. No, the reason Zachary Ricochet was picked number 1 is because the draft class is bad and he was what the Hawks considered the best of the bunch. He has had a couple of good games. I know this. You know this. He follows it up with an 8-pointer on 27% shooting. Absolutely no problem if you want to chase, because you hate to be in the FOMO of like, ooh, well, I should have done it. But honestly, like, it's just not reliable enough for me. The night watchman, Mohamed, why are you gay? He played 21 minutes. He had 14, 7, 2 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Honestly, if you're in deeper leagues, that is an ad. 16s and 14s, go for it. 12s, it's streamable, but that's actually really good. And we also got elevated Terrence Mann, which I never want to trust. 19, 6, and 4 for Mann. Well, Levert was out of this one and Young was out. I forgot Levert was out. So yeah, look, another one who was out that elevated a lot of these guys. Vit Krejci returned to action. We're not adding him at this stage. While Okongwu was solid, Capella's a drop, and Niang had 18 with 3 threes, and he's in that just morass. And it's good to have a morass. Morasses are good. Having 70 to 80 players where you can look at through any point of the week and go, that might work on my roster. That is exactly why streaming works in 10 and 12 and 14 team leagues. Because I look at this team and I go, yeah, Terrence Mann, Mohamed Gay, Zach Ricochet, Clint Capella, Vit Krejci, George Niang. I could stream any of them and be okay because I know that if I'm tripling the volume out of that spot, it will work. And that's how I want to view those things. Well, actually, I don't want to, but that is how I have to view them given the way the game is played. Today's episode is brought to you by Skims Men's. If you've got uncomfortable balls, well, maybe Skims Men's is the thing for you. Because we try out in our lives to avoid uncomfortable underwear. Who wants uncomfortable underwear? It is the thing that touches you the closest you can. And you're in it all day. You're sitting, you're moving, you're shuffling, you're trying to adjust. Who wants that? Skims Men's is everything. It's material, bang, comfortable, colors, what a range, sizes, shapes, cuts, plus you don't have to have that jealousy from looking at the female women in your life, or even men who might wear the women's Skims. Not my call, up to you. And you say, geez, I wish I had something as comfortable as that. Well, now you do. It's easy to do. You shop Skims Men's at skims.com and at Skims stores, and you let them know that we sent you. After you place the order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. When you're looking for a gift for yourself or for others, Skims is the way to go. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA basketball as well. Let's do the next one, the battle. The Raptors hosting the Washington Wizards in Toronto. The Raptors win it 119-104 as your final score here. We'll start on the Washington side of things here. Bub Carrington returned to the starting lineup with Chris Middleton resting. That is the frustration with Bub, is the back and forward out of the lineup. The thing that I would say here is Bilal Coulibaly left after 8 minutes. Really, really hard fall on his back. And then somehow, now this is honestly, and we have been in a season of a million tightness and soreness designations, a million weird. Look, just go look at Charles Bassey's injury designation. What is it, like acute bone bruise, chronic bone bruise pain or some shit? It's something that doesn't make any sense. We saw Bilal go up, get smacked, land flat on his back, out for the game, hamstring tightness. I'm so sorry. What are you talking about? Unless it was one of those things where he landed and his hamstrings through reflex action shot out and snapped up and pulled, which would be incredibly unlucky, but also maybe a best case result from that injury. How is it a hamstring tightness scenario? What are we doing? Anyway, so Bilal's got hamstring tightness. We'll see what that means. But what it does mean in a practical sense is if Coulibaly needs to miss, it means that Bub Carrington doesn't have to move to the bench when Middleton shuffles in and out. Let's look at what Bub did, because he's probably the focus here. Oh, yeah, it was bad. 5, 4, and 5 in 26 minutes, 18% shooting. He's had some good games. There's no questioning that. But to me, there is no reason in the world, unless he's your 9th best player or 10th best player, to look at Bub as anything more than a guy that if he plays 4 games, sure, absolutely. 3 games or 2 quality games, see you later. I will do better by using somebody different. Keyshawn George is moving a little bit past that, maybe. 28 minutes for Georgie, 13 points with 3 threes and 5 blocks. We talked about him on the daily preview show for tomorrow, looking up his season highs in assists and steals and blocks, and they're all bloody ridiculous. And looked at his college numbers and said, how could you possibly have seen this coming? When the man averaged 7 points a game, I think it was, and 0.6 blocks in 24 minutes. He is putting up unbelievable numbers. He is getting past that stream area at the moment. With Bilal out, Justin Champagny played 24 minutes. He had 2 steals and 2 blocks. He's very good at that. But I will urge caution. Chris Middleton has to come back into this lineup for some reason, but he will. And Champagny is probably the guy that moves to the back. Only 23 Jordan Poole minutes. Frustrating, but still 16 points. And Alex Sarr, 16-11 with 3 blocks. We just keep rolling until we see something go against what we want. Corey Kispert had 13 with 3 threes, and he's just in that group, in that morass. But I want to bring your attention to something. Tristan Vukcevic. 25 minutes, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 2 threes, 1 steal, and 1 block. And one of you, there'll be someone out there saying, Josh, why highlight that? Because that's the same sort of a stat line of these guys that you talk about as being in this stream zone. And that's sort of true. What is intriguing here is, Richaun Holmes was out. But if you add up the minutes that Vukcevic and Sarr played, it doesn't equal 48. It equals 55. So they played together. And that is really interesting because if Bub misses and George pushes down to the 3, could Vukcevic, much like, say, a Karlo Makovic, and I know it's an easy comparison because of the itch factor, but if he can get a 25 a night roll and somehow he's got to be ahead of Richaun Holmes, and I think he will be at some point, he's interesting. Watch it. Just watch that. Just watch that little fact that we played them together a lot in this game. It is noteworthy to me. On the Toronto side, Pirtle was resting. Dick was out. Grady was sidelined. Abaji was out. Walter was out. Mobo was out. So instead of starting AJ Lawson, who went absolutely bananas, they went with Jared Rhoden, two-way legend who doesn't have many games left. He had 11 points, 3 threes. Again, if you had to just say, hey, I'm going to do a single game stream of Jared Rhoden and got 11-3 and with a steal and 3 threes, you go, okay. Not great, but if I got 6 times that during the week, I'd be very happy. What happened though? AJ Lawson, who'd started the last couple and had been like 18% shooting, decided we're going off here. 32 and 12, 7 triples, 43%, 21 attempts. He is a name to watch just to see what they end up doing with him. Quickly had 15, 6 and 6, very mid. They are obviously pulling him back. Barrett, only 27 minutes. Barnes, only 26 minutes. It is shaped. Remember, at least this team was honest in the preseason. They told you they are not going to try and win games. They are going to aggressively not try and win games. They want to be down the bottom, and they're going to do this, and it is going to get worse. Orlando Robinson started again in place of Pirtle. Another name that he could easily push past the I am streaming you in zone. 13, 11, 4 assists and a block. He is a very big fantasy option. If you are in any stash territory, an obvious stash. A very easy, a very obvious stash. Let's go into the next one. It is the Utah Jazz men, the Boston Celtics, the Jazz. Well, do we get some clarity? Well, I mean, like sort of some clarity. Colin Sexton returned. Bryce Sensabaugh went to the bench. Walker Kessler returned. Kyle Filipowski went to the bench. John Collins returned. KJ Martin went to the bench. That must have been Larry Mark. Oh, no, he didn't actually. So we got clarity, but what does it mean? Markkanen was out. Keontae George was out. Jordan Clarkson was out. Is this it? If Markkanen does not play this week, he is done. And honestly, if you drop Larry Markkanen, you won't regret it. If you drop John Collins, you won't regret it. There'll be games where they spike and you go, bloody, why did I drop him? But it's just going to be so sporadic that it's going to be better without them. Johnny Collins, 28 and 10, 34 minutes. They lose by 6 points to the Celtics. That's a little bit too close for comfort, my guy. I reckon you might have one more game left in you, and you're done. Kessler had 11 and 10 with 2 blocks. Sexton had 33 minutes. He'd been playing like 23, so interesting. 16 with 13 assists in a game with no George. And Sensabaugh off the bench had 22, 4 and 5. But like, again, unless I know that these guys are out, and I feel like I won't actually get confirmation of this for another 2 weeks, it's hard to trust it. And the problem is very clear here as well with Filipowski. Because Collins and Kessler started, so he played 16 minutes. I would absolutely try to hold Filipowski because I do think that you might get a rest as soon as next game. And definitely against the Raptors game later in the week. But that obviously, if you're in semi-final week and you might get one more big game, that's absolutely not worth it. Again, another reminder, you do not need to be rostering Isaiah Collier. I like Isaiah Collier. He's been unbelievably good. He's been unbelievably improved. Don't hold him.
Get that garbage out of here.
And that's probably about it on that Jazz side of the equation. What about on the Boston side? Yeah, there were guys, and Porzingis is still dealing with the bubonic plague. So Luke Cornett started with Al Horford out, and then Jason Tatum. He had a bit of a seat as well in this one, and they moved Slammin' Sammy Hauser into the starting lineup. We might as well start with Hauser, who decided it was his turn to go absolutely bananas. 33 with 6 rebounds and 9 triples on 48% shooting. He's always an option for this, but it doesn't always and usually doesn't work out. Brown had 26, 8, and 7. Drew was fine enough. 10, 6, and 4 with 2 steals, and Derek White 18, 5, 10, 3 blocks. Holiday is still incredibly over-rostered. You do not need to roster him. This game is good. It's fine. It is not worth a stick. You don't hold it. While Peyton Pritchard, who dropped, I think this time last week, 43 points in a game, had 8 points with 2 threes in 26 minutes on 27%. I know that the numbers will tell you he should be a must roster. I'm getting to the stage, even though there was that big pop game. And I detailed it on the streaming plan. If you dropped him and streamed in his roster spot, you came out on top last week despite that big game. And honestly, if that is your worst or second worst player, and when the schedule doesn't make sense for Boston, you don't hold. You don't. There's no point in that. He's never going to have a better game than what he had last week, and we see the downsides. And earlier in the season, you can deal with that. Not now. Cornett, 5 and 8, 2 steals and a block. Fine-ish, I guess. He's at least worth looking at when centers are out. It just did not work out that way in this game. Today's episode is brought to you by Wayfair. Your home should reflect your style. And with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. I'm not really sure what sort of house decor style would reflect t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops in all weather, but that's what my house style would reflect, my decor. Wayfair, though, they'd probably be able to handle that. I don't know how they would do it, but they would find something. Salahi Bembry Crocs plus really short shorts, that can turn into a style, I'm sure. But I'm sure your style is not that, because you've got your own individual style. Cozy furniture, stylish decor, kitchen essentials, outdoor must-haves. Wayfair has it all, and the prices, they fit your budget. Find that perfect piece, get it delivered for free and on time. So head over to wayfair.com and find something that is just your style today. That is W-A-Y-F-A-R-F... Maybe that's why we need to spell it, because I can't speak. WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Maybe the style is unemployed bum chic. Let's get into the next one. Fourth game of the day. We're talking Charlotte. We're talking Miami. And the Hornets, they win 105-102. Just between you and me, Miami is dreadful, and I don't really know what to make of it. For the Hornets, LaMelo Ball returned. Good for him. Mark Williams returned. Double good for him. He started over Moussa Diabate. Nick Smith went back to the bench and Daquan Jeffries started, while Damian Baugh went from starting to a DMP-CD, preserving the two-way game days. Let's start with Williams, who played 29 minutes after 2 consecutive rests. 24-10, 2 steals, 2 blocks. With him at this point, you've just got to ride it out until we get more clarity as to when or if they stop playing him. LaMelo Ball's shooting percentages continue to be abominable, 24%, but 15, 6, and 10, the counting stats are solid. And is this the last or the second last day of Malachi Flynn's 10-day contract? Yes, we're tracking that. Because it's interesting, it's important to know, maybe more importantly, yeah, that was the last day. Because him being able to play on that 10-day means they can push guys like Barr and Simpson back into the G League and back being inactive so as not to waste their days. So Flynn played 15 minutes. He had 5, 2, and 4 with 2 steals. Not going to have that 50-point game, I'm guessing, but he played the minutes. Daquan had 8 points, 2 blocks, and 2 threes. Bro didn't play a minute for the first 4 months of the season. Now he's starting. I don't think we need to react too much to him. And then Nick Smith, they gave it a shot. They said, Nick, let's see what you can do. And he said, all right, here you go. And they went, yeah, maybe show us what a good NBA player could do. And he couldn't do that, so he's gone to the bench for 4 points in 16 minutes. You don't roster Nurk. You don't roster Diabate. Nurkic still 59% rostered in 12-10 leagues. Are you guys feeling all right? I know that there are teams that are eliminated, so he stays on rosters, but bro, come on. If you are sitting and still alive and Yusuf Nurkic is on your roster, we've got plenty of sponsors that can help with that sort of problem. Let's go to the Miami Heat. On their side of it, just a shocking loss. There was no Jovic here, no Alec Burks. The good thing about Miami is Bam has figured out that he can be a good player again because he was bad for a long period of time. 23, 14, and 8 in 39 minutes, but Tyler Hero, at least he shot well because he has been on whatever the opposite of a heater is. After an incredibly hot start, he has tailed off incredibly. But 21, 3, and 2, that's not really cutting it. Khalil Ware, 2-5, steal, block, 17%. We are at the period, I like Khalil Ware a lot. We're at the period in the season now where if it doesn't work for you, if the schedule is not there, don't hold him. We are just consistently getting mid-20 minute games, and that is not enough. Davion Mitchell also went from playing 37 minutes tonight to 23. He is absolutely not a hold. He is not a 12-10 league guy. What Davion Mitchell is a guy that when it's an opportunity to stream in for assists and steals, you look at him. But now,
Get that garbage out of here.
that's 2 in a row under 30 minutes as Spoelstra continues to move things around. What I wanted to check was the Hayward Highsmith cycle. Oh, we're back to 31 minutes, are we? 7-4 with a steal. Cool. Don't care. Don't trust it. While Terry Rozier still rostered in a stupid amount of leagues. He had 4 points. The Jaime Jaquez revenge tour continued 5-4 for him in those 14 minutes, and this team continues to not know what they're doing. Wiggins just is doing Wiggins things. It's good enough for 12s, absolutely, but like 19-7 in 34 minutes, it's Wiggins. Like, I don't even know how best otherwise to describe it. I look at that and go, yeah, that sounds about Wiggins, and it is. Cool. Lakers, Nets. The Nets, 111, the Lakers, 108. The Lakers were without LeBron and Rui and Finney-Smith and Hayes. So they trotted out a starting lineup that, honestly, I believe JJ Redick is traveling to The Hague next week for some sort of war crimes tribunal. Gabe Vincent started with Dorian Finney-Smith out. Alex Len was dusted off in place of Jared Vanderbilt, and Dalton Connect started in place of LeBron James. A couple of the guys that I wanted to monitor in this game were Jordan Goodwin, two-way legend, 17-8 with 5 threes. Let's go. Limited games left, but while players are out, he's at least streamable. Jared Vanderbilt, 27 minutes, 7-6 with a steal. Absolutely not good enough to roster. And when I say to roster, I mean, LeBron went down, let's add Vanderbilt, and we are good. No. He's a guy that you look at and go, well, when it makes sense, he's now moved from a 16-team streamer into a 12-team type area. And the same with Connect, who played 41 minutes and had 19 points with 3 threes. He is a points and threes guy. Just think of a worse DeAndre Hunter. And that is a streamable level player. Alex Len played 13 useless minutes while Trey Jemison had 18 minutes for 2 blocks. He was the other two-way guy I wanted to watch. I believe he will get converted later in the season, and I think Len will get cut. But for now, while they're no Hayes and Finney-Smith, they're going to mix and match guys. So the guys you consider, like Gabe Vincent went crazy. But if he doesn't hit 6 threes, he had 3 assists and no other stats. He had 24 with 6 threes. So he's deeper stream. But the guys I look at are Connect and Vanderbilt as 12-team streamers, and even Goodwin to a degree. Luka had 22, 12, and 12, but horrific shooting again from Luka as they go down to the Brooklyn Nets. Let's go on to the Nets side of things, the beginning of their 5-game week. Cam Thomas and Trendon Watford were out in here. And don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. Well, what actually happened, before I get too excited, Cam Johnson just slid in and replaced Cam Thomas. He played 33 minutes, 18, 7, 5, 3 steals, 2 threes. And I can't believe they're playing him more minutes now than they were earlier. I don't really understand what's happening, but they're doing it. Cool. What I don't want to get sucked into is Noah Clowney. Because he played 23 off the bench. He had 19-5 with 3 threes and a steal and a block. And for all of those people who ask me, or don't ask me, but write it somewhere and say, why does Josh like Noah Clowney? That's why. He's not consistent enough to do it all the time, but that's why. Scoring. Threes, steal, block, good on free throws, solid field goal. That's why. If we got that 75% of the time, I'm all in. I'm jumping on. We're adding. But I'm not there. But if you want the example of why I like Noah Clowney as a player and why I think he can be a good fantasy guy, that's it. That's why. Zion Williams started. He had 7 points only on shocking. He's just a bad shooter, man. But 9 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. All very good. And 4 more games this week. 4 more quality games. Now we move into more stream zone. Only 25 minutes for Keon Johnson. It'll be interesting to see if they do sit D'Angelo Russell tomorrow. I think they will. 18, 3, and 3 for Keon, so minutes should stay up. Well, Dayron Sharp, the only reason you're holding is this week. That's it. 8, 7, 17 minutes. Remember, it's a 4-game week for guys like Sharp, not a 5, because I'm going to guess that you wouldn't have started him today. Claxton played 31 minutes, 12 and 6. There's no real indication of him sitting any time here, but watch out. And a guy that I mentioned on the waiver wire show yesterday, just said if the double on extras, just sneaky keep a look at this guy, Tyrese Martin. 27 minutes, 14 points, 3 rebounds, 4 threes, 1 steal, 1 block. You know what they say? A broken clock is right twice a day. Maybe that was my broken clock moment. because I think that there is a little bit there in Tyrese ahead of a Jalen Wilson, ahead of a vulture Reese Beekman. Maybe, honestly, he's got a chance to be even better than Isaiah Williams as a player. So just got to keep that small little eye on what he's up to. The next game, the rematch. And I criticized the NBA for putting the Thunder and the Nuggets on back-to-back. And then I realized they play each other again on Thursday. What are you doing? 3 times in a week? Why would that be the move? What are we talking about? That's crazy. So Aaron Gordon, unsurprisingly, was out with the calf soreness, tightness for the 3rd time this season. So Russell Westbrook started in the 140-127 victory. And Denver, after losing yesterday, just went crazy. Have you ever seen this level of shooting? 61% from the field. 56% from 3. You can't compete with that. Jokic, 35, 18 and 8, 40 minutes. Unbelievable. The headmaster, 34, 4 and 6, Jamal Murray, 50% shooting. Poop Cookie Michael Porter, 17 and 6 with a steal and 58%. Peyton Watson, who played like 7 minutes yesterday, played 24 and had 16 with 4 threes. But the reason you want Peyton Watson is to get a couple of blocks in, and he did. W. Even Russell Westbrook went 60% from the field. 16, 5 and 7. And wouldn't you know it, the guy that has been beating all expectations, all logic in my sense of being, why is this guy's field goal percentage so high? In the game where they set basically records, not quite, but that is the best efficiency anyone's had against the Thunder all season, Christian Brown says, all right, I'm going to be a 36% shooter today. Of course. Why wouldn't he be? That would make complete sense, wouldn't it? 14, 5 and 5 for Brownie. Cool. He's been great. Not as good a game, but still pretty solid. While Gordon is out, Westbrook is a 12-team league guy. I think that is a relatively straightforward equation. Equation? Yeah, that's the right word. What? That sounds so wrong. Equation. And you hold it with there. For the Thunder, the big news for them is, I believe, that injury for Jalen Williams. And they're calling it a hip strain, which is not great verbiage. I hope it's nothing super serious. They're rolling out the same, they did roll out the same starting lineup that they rolled out the last game. It was a back-to-back, and interesting, Chet played. We'll go to Chet first. He played 29 minutes, 8 and 4 with 2 blocks. That is a horrific game. He started out this season red hot, obviously got hurt, and since he's returned, he has been nowhere near that player. Not to say that he won't be that, but it's been a bit of a struggle. The question's going to be, what do we do? The Broncos out. 14 minutes, 12 points, 6 assists for Jalen Williams. I don't know if he's going to miss time. I have absolutely no idea. I would think probably yes. Probably a little bit of time here. So the question's going to be, who do we add? And my answer is, nobody. Now, if you are in a situation where it is a stashable type scenario, you're going to have options. Like today, Lou Dort went crazy. 26 and 7, 8 threes, 4 steals and a block. Lou Dort is not wanting for minutes. He plays 30 minutes a night every night anyway. The guys that get the bump are going to be Carson Wallace, who had 12, 3 and 8, 3 steals and a block. And if we knew that Carson Wallace was going to play that much every game, then yeah, you know what? That would be an ad. Or not play that much, play that well every game. He would be an ad, and you just roll him out there. But we don't, because he doesn't. The other guys, it'll be Aaron Wiggins, who, efficiency legend. What is it for today with the efficiency legends? Better check on Ty Jerome tomorrow. Wiggins had 8 points on 38%. He is a guy, and Wallace is a different story. Wallace, to me, is a better overall fantasy player because he doesn't rely upon, hey, I'm a 58% field goal shooter guy, and that's why my value comes. Because when Wiggins doesn't hit, what are we doing? 8 and 4, yuck. Wallace gets assists, he gets steals, he gets some threes, he gets a block, rebounds okay. So if I had to add anybody, yeah, Dort is fine. He is unbelievably inconsistent. It would be Wallace. But overall, I think getting more value out of that spot through streaming is going to be the way to go. What else happened here? Hartenstein had 20 and 7 in only 26 minutes. They actually didn't even start him in the second half. He was in some trouble in this game in terms of some fouls, but that's not really what Dagnott does. He just didn't play as much. They went with Pig Williams instead. Now, to say that didn't really work is probably a little bit of an understatement. He went scoreless in 10 minutes and had 3 rebounds, but it's something they did. So yeah, Jalen's going to be out, so you're going to get Wallace up, you're going to get Wiggins up, you're going to get Joe up, you're going to get Caruso up, you're going to get Dort up. Are any of them going to be good enough to just be grabs and holds? I don't think so. If anyone will be, it will be Wallace, but I'm still not going to be overly invested in that as a decision. I wouldn't be rushing to do it. You can, of course, if you believe they will, I get it, and Wallace is my option there, but I still think that you can do a lot better in a standard daily streaming format. Again, if your format is different, we go about it in a different way. The next game, Indiana Pacers, Chicago Bulls. The Bulls 121, the Pacers 103. Ben Shepherd was out not out, he was out of the starting lineup, and Ben Mathurin moved into the starting lineup with Tyrese Halliburton on the sideline. So let's check on those guards. The Pacers just got absolutely cooked, so I'll be honest with you, don't worry about it. Don't worry about any of this box score because there's very easy ways for you to go in and tell. Johnny Furphy, the dildo, played 18 minutes. Right. Quentin Jackson played 14. Ray J. Dennis played 8. You may know Ray J for some of his on-camera work, but he played 8 minutes here. Tony Bradley played 8 minutes. This game, James Johnson made us proud in 4 minutes. So while it'd be easy for me to say, yeah, Mathurin was shit, drop him, do it. But also, this game doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything that he played 22 minutes in Empire. It doesn't mean anything that Neesmith played 24. It doesn't mean anything that Turner played 23. It's just a game they got cooked. They were bad. The plug got pulled early, and they just move on to the next one. That is literally what happened in this game. And that's what happens often, honestly, when you play against the GOAT, Josh Giddey, who went bananas again. This is an incredibly hot run from Josh Giddey. They went with the same starting lineup, which is also notable because Nikola Vucevic was available, and he did not start. Now, he will start, but he did not start. So let's get to the GOAT. He had 11 and 11 on 63% in 24 minutes with his usual 1 assist, no steals, no blocks. And yeah, like he's back. Will he last the whole season? I don't know, but probably will go close to it. I suggested that as soon as Vuce was back, you could drop Zach Collins. And I know that he started today. Don't care. There's only 2 more games the rest of this week for the Bulls. Collins started, played 23 minutes, had 7 and 9. He had 6 assists, a steal, and a block. Not a bad game. Not a bad game. But with 2 more games, I'll drop him. I'll get 6 games out of the slot and I'll smash that number. And he could be an 18-minute backup as soon as their next one. And you don't need to worry about that. Bye-bye. Giddey was unbelievable. 29 and 10, 2 threes, 4 assists and a block. Now, I am certain in the offseason I'm going to do some sort of show regarding dynasty values and buy lows and sell highs and mirages and second halves and all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to tell you adamantly that this is one of the biggest outlier sell highs you'll ever see. There is a lot of research, and I'm going to talk to Kevin. Kevin Pelton, that is. Maybe I'll try and get him on the show, but he's probably busy with the playoffs. To talk about the work that he did showing the correlation of post-All-Star break stats and the meaningfulness of performances and what it means for production in the future. And his correlation doesn't mean anything because the quality of your own lineups versus the quality of the opposing lineups you're going against skew everything. And Giddey is doing this without ball. There's no Dosunmu. They're going to have a pick, and maybe it gets to be a high pick. And he is doing this while shooting like 58% from 3 since the break. So while it's very easy to throw a surface level, Josh Giddey has been given the keys. He is 22. He is only going to continue to improve. No. Remember this guy at the start of the year was playing 27 minutes a night, was benched for all 4th quarters? Remember how bad he was? And now multiple players are out. 3 of them out as guards. One of them's Levine, who's not coming back, obviously. But this is mirage stuff. He's doing it. He's putting up the numbers that there's no denying the numbers are coming. But long term, this is going to be one of those things that leads to an over-evaluation of what Giddey is. And as soon as you start saying, no, Josh, he's got the keys, this is it, he can do this. I had someone tell me he's going to be a 3rd-round draft pick next season. I was going to say something so rude. I won't say that. But I said, no, absolutely no way in the world. Yesterday, I got 2 outrageous comments regarding the 3rd round of fantasy drafts next season, which again goes to show the complete different way that people value things. Someone told me that Josh Giddey is going to keep doing this and improve and be a 3rd round draft pick. Someone also told me that Cade Cunningham will be drafted in the 3rd round next season. And they are both wildly funny to me in opposite directions. But that is just a differences of opinion. And I just go, wow, that is crazy talk. Because to me, Cade's going in the top in the 1st round without question. And there's no shot you're taking Giddey in the top 50. None. And we'll see what happens. But that's very early on in the business here. Kevin Huerter played 34 minutes, 13 and 4, 3 threes, 3 steals and a block. Is that good? It's not bad. Do I care with only 2 games this week? 100% no. Because I didn't even talk that Josh Giddey hurt his ankle. He left the game. It's the same ankle he had surgically repaired after the Olympics, which slowed the start of his season down. I would say there's no shot that he's not missing games here. I don't know how long it's going to be, but someone's going to have to step up. And I don't know if Alonzo's going to return or not, or what's going to happen. But Trey Jones, again, has not been a 12-team league must. I'm very clear on that. But he had 8, 3, and 8 with 34 minutes. And with only 2 games, I'm not adding Trey Jones. I'm not adding Kevin Huerter. If we get a diagnosis of Josh Giddey out for 4 weeks, and you've got a situation where this week does not matter, then yeah, look into Jones and Huerter as maybe options. But that can all just get kiboshed completely by Lonzo returning. But with there is no way you add Trey Jones or Kevin Huerter or Matas Buzalis or, God forbid, Taylor Horton-Tucker and go, yeah, they're 2 games that's going to really carry me, because it won't. Again, different scenarios for different people in different spots where you can maybe look. And if I had to add somebody, it would be Jones over Huerter, but I don't feel very good about it. And to me, he is a fringy player in 12s, not a must at all. Kobe White had 29, 7, and 4 with no defensive stats, but still an incredibly efficient game. And Jalen Smith was actually a DMP CD, which I didn't expect that would be the case, but looks like Zach Collins has taken over from him. Well, it happens. I didn't think that would happen, and it did. Wrong. All right, the next one, the Orlando Magic. And the Houston Rockets. Neither team gets to 100. 97 Houston, 84 Orlando. No change to the Magic starting lineup. That means Cole Anthony was still in there as the starting point guard. And what we want to check was it a good Cole Anthony? No, it wasn't. 9, 4, and 3 on 31% in 31 minutes. This is what he does. He had 3 blocks last game, cool. But he is totally okay to roster. It's just going to be a back-endish sort of guy who's probably marginally better than being a droppable for stream zone type of guy. What we also got was Wendell Carter being totally mid, 8 and 12 in his 30 minutes. Franz Wagner, 15, 7 and 5, and Banchero, 25, 5 and 3. John Isaac got his 3 steals and a block. Welcome, thanks. He's been actually really quite bad this season, despite being relatively healthy. Speaking of bad, KCP played 21 minutes and was scoreless, and Mr. Black had 3 points in 20 minutes. This was also a game where we got 12 minutes from Trevelyan. Yes, Queen. He had 4 and 3 with 2 steals. I talked about him on the injury show earlier today, saying, hey, just watch him. He's got like 5 or I think he's got like maybe 8 games left. Let's double check that actually. Again, don't want to be blowing smoke up your bums. So let's take a look where Trevelyan sits in terms of games remaining. 9. 9 games left. Who had some deep league appeal and just is another just like, okay, just marginally watching that. But honestly, just horrific stuff all around. Paulo and Franz, we're rostering him. Wendell, we're not. Cole Anthony, borderline. And then everything else is just deeper league stuff. That is it. And this team continues to be, honestly, miserable. They were so good for so long. And I've said this for many players throughout history. But there are times when the team's best player is not their most important player. Jakob Poeltl is the Raptors' most important player. He's not their best player. He's the most important. The Magic's is Jalen Suggs. And basically, as soon as he got hurt, cooked. They had no Paulo. They got by. They had no Franz. They got by. They lost Jalen Suggs. Done. He's their most important player. And it goes a little bit underrated, I think. We'll talk Houston now with the Rockets. No Van Vliet and no Amen Thompson. So they started both Jabari and Tari Eason together. Meaning Jalen Green, the Filipino himself, Jollibee Jalen Green, started a point guard. 8 assists. Oh, that's interesting. Now, he shot horrific, 33%, 15, 7, and 8, but that's interesting that they went that direction instead of starting Aaron Holiday, who played just 16 minutes. Şengün had 14, 14, and 4. Not his best, but still pretty good. Well, what about Steven Adams? That is like 3 good games in a row. And I don't really know what to make of it. We're not doing much with it, but I can't ignore 11 and 17 rebounds in 23 minutes. He had 6 or 7 assist game the other day as well. At least in deeper leagues, he is alive. Eason, you'd like more than that, 6 in 25%. Now, he's one of those guys that I know that we do like at times for fantasy, but I do think his value is overinflated a lot. He has these random poor efficiency games. He gets the games where he just junks his stats up by grabbing his own misses on offensive boards. He gets some really good steal games, but then he's just all over the shop. And I worry that he's maybe not exactly... Remember KJ McDaniels? One of those players where you see the flashes and you see the defensive upside. You see, man, this guy's a guard and he's blocking 5 shots. What's going on? And it's a little bit like that with Eason where he does stuff and then the next game it's completely off. There's no consistency. There's weird issues with positioning and shooting. And I'm not sure he ever is able to become a 30-minute bang-on locked-in startup. I'm not sold on it. I like him, but I'm not sold. As for Jabari, he had 20 and 7 with 5 threes. 39% shooting, of course. But this all could just blow up completely because Van Vliet just returns next game, pushes Jabari and Tari more into one position, and makes them not worth it. So I wouldn't be rushing to add Jabari. Would I rush to drop Tari? Probably not. And I'm not sure this game actually told us anything. And even if it does, by the way, Cam Whitwell played 2 minutes. Even if it does, it won't tell us anything for the game after because we're expecting that Freddles Van Vliet is back in the saddle. Next game. Phoenix, they go down to the Grizzlies. All half of the Grizzlies. 120-118 is your final score here. Bradley Beal was resting. I'm going to assume that it was just a back-to-back rest scenario for Bealo, and he will be okay for the next one, but we're at that stage now where I don't really know. Tyus Jones started. He had 12, 3, and 7 with 4 threes, and if you knew that you could stream Tyus in on the games that he starts, you'd feel okay about it. But you're absolutely not holding him. Royce O'Neal had 9 with 3 threes and 2 steals, the perfect stream guy. Grayson Allen, 9 and 2 with 3 assists and a steal. Actually, a pretty good stream guy. BDNR, 20 minutes only for Nick Richards, who's playing better, but 10 and 12. O'Neal, Jones, Richards, Allen, Bol, none of these guys are must-roster players. Mason Plumlee also is playing more than Nick Richards. More than league winner Nick Richards. 10 and 8 in 26 minutes for Plumlee with a steal. He's moving into at least 14-team league discussions. As for Bol, 7 points, 17 minutes. They're playing him in the, hey, you're starting, but we actually don't care enough to make you play good minutes zone.
Get that garbage out of here.
Thank you, Jack. Booker had 26, 9, and 6. Durant had 37, 5, and 5. They lost. They're bad. They won't make the playoffs. Cool. Remember when Ryan Dunn was starting? Played 27 minutes in this game, so I don't really know how Budenholzer's approach has changed so much, but I'm not going to hate on it because Dunn really wasn't up to it, but yeah, that's just been one of the weirdest seasons of all time. Let's talk about Memphis, because out of nowhere there was no Zach Edey. We know there was no Jaren Jackson. There was no Santi Aldama. Then there was no Vince Williams. Then there was no Luke Kennard. Then there was no Brandon Clark. Okay, so we got Greg Jackson II starting, along with Jay Huff. Now, the Dragon, Jay Huff, had 14 with 4 threes and 2 blocks. That's not bad. I don't know whether Edey's going to remain out. Their next game is on Wednesday against the Jazz, so it's going to be a little bit shenaniganized there, and I'm almost certain Morant will not play in that game. He had 29, 4, and 12 here on 69% with 10 of 10 from the line. One of his best games. But I don't think he plays on Wednesday, and I think that means that Scottie Pippen is going to be streamable for that game. Pippen played 27 minutes with Kennard out, 13 and 2 with 2 steals, and he could be interesting. Huff is also going to be streamable if Clark and Edey are out, but as you'll notice, even Aldama, 3 guys had to be out to get this. Greg Jackson had 14, 4, and 3 with 2 steals, which is a reasonably good line. But Jackson, Edey, Aldama, Clark, Williams, all out, all play the same position. Can you trust this? Of course you can't. Not even close to being able to trust it. There's nothing here outside of, if that same scenario happens again, then maybe we take a look at it. 10-day legend Lamar Stevens, who's had a couple of moments on the Grizzlies before. 13 and 5, 4 threes, steal and a block. Great, love it. Fantastic. Does it mean anything? Probably not. Much like with Cam Spencer. The Suns got cooked by Lamar Stevens and Cam Spencer. Spencer had 16 and 3 with 4 threes and 3 steals. Very good game. That's Pat Spencer's brother. And he's a rookie, and I think he might turn into an okay player, maybe. Jalen Wells continues his assault at the Rookie of the Year by shooting 11% with 2 points in 23 minutes. He's been solid. He started all year, but he is not even tickling the edges of fantasy value. And that is just a game where there's stuff that happened, but I don't actually know if it's important or not. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. All right, next game. Dallas, San Antonio. The Mavericks win. They get the victory. The beat up, completely nobody available to play Mavericks beat the Spurs, who are, again, it's not really discussed very much, but they're going to be shutting guys down, I'm guessing shutting guys down very soon, San Antonio, just because they're not going anywhere at this point. So we know the Mavs had nobody available. They were eight guys, so we had no Brandon Williams, which I spoke about at the start of the show. And it was Dante Exum that started. Now, he didn't do anything. 10 points, 24 minutes, he's not the ad. And apologies to the guy who left a comment, Josh, just skip over all Spencer Dinwiddie news where he's only viable for 16-teamers. He had 28, 7, and 6 with 4 threes, a steal, played 37 minutes, shot 56% from the field, and 6 of 6 from the line. This is the problem with Spencer Dinwiddie. Is he washed? Yeah. Yes. Obviously, yes. But do washed players occasionally have a good game? Also, yes. And we're in a situation where he is going to be just pumped full of minutes that make it useful. And I know that many of you regretted adding Spencer Dinwiddie over Najee Marshall. I get that. They were both 12-team options. But in this one, Dinwiddie was better than Marshall. Now, Marshall was fine, 23, 5, and 3 with a steal, but it was Dinwiddie time. I don't feel good about having Spencer Dinwiddie, but I still think that he, like I said yesterday, I still think he's worth a hold just because of the Williams thing. Kessler Edwards, 22 and 11. Limited games left. We know that. We know there is not many games left on his contract, but while PJ Washington is out, he is going to be okay. Enough to consider for streaming. Now, this is, again, a game, and we're seeing this, everyone's saying it, we're seeing it more and more, that when you play the Spurs, there are some pretty good opportunities for some big numbers, and that's what happened here. Edwards has 5 games left. So just, again, be aware. I think I mentioned at the start of the show, didn't I? I did. Anyway, pretty good game. Clay is playing a lot here, 36 minutes, 26 points, 3 threes, but it's very empty. The percentages are great. They won't always be, but there's nothing else, but that's okay. There's value in that. And then Max Christie, he just cannot get going. But 12, 4, and 5 and shot 27%. There is going to be a period here, whether it's 1 game or 3 games in 4, where he shoots 55% and has 2 30 bombs. It's going to happen. I just don't know when. Your ability to hold and wait for that is actually up to you and whether you can determine that. But I know it's been bad. But he's more talented than a lot of these guys, and the opportunity still remains. And until that opportunity goes away, we're not going to just completely discount Christie as an option. Marshall's obviously the guy there. Dinwiddie's obviously ahead of him. But we're not completely just going to give up on what the big fella Max Christie can offer in this particular spot. On the Spurs side of things, there was no Jeremy Sohan. Maybe that accounted for the low minutes in the last game with a calf issue. What we got is an opportunity for me to do it. Maybe one more time for the year. The pencil. Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. That one felt good. It felt like it really came from the bottom of the scrotum. It really pushed up that one. Huge game from Barnes. 29 and 8, 4 threes, 1 steal, 1 block. Do you care about it? Nah, not really. Because we know who Barnes is. We know that he's inconsistent. We know that we get... Actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. There is a history of Harrison Barnes doing this for 3 in a row and then disappearing for the next 2 months. So do you want to get on top and maybe think that he could do it again? I guess it's possible. But I'm not going to feel super strongly about it. I'm not going to feel overly confident that we're going to get Harrison Barnes doing this regularly. They play again, the Spurs, on Wednesday, then Friday, Saturday. So it's intriguing enough. Same with Keldon Johnson. This is a Keldon game. But you know who Keldon is. 28, 5, and then 0, 1, 0. He doesn't do anything unless it's high volume, high efficiency. 63% shooting got him here. It is hard, very hard to rely upon. Solid from Devin Vassell. Well, De'Aaron Fox continues to really struggle. And I think we've got... This is a guess. I'm going to pull it from down below. I'll guess on this. We have got 2 weeks left and Fox is done. I think that he will have early season-ending finger surgery. I don't think it'll happen now. I think we're going to head to... Again, my usual date will be around March 20th. And then he's done. That is my guess. Steph Castle had a shoulder issue, played through it, and delivered like a fine game. Well, sort of fine. 14, 5, and 6 with 2 steals and 2 threes is good because he doesn't always deliver those peripherals. But he could not give you anything for the field goals, 33%, and then he was 4 of 8 from the line, which hurts a lot. He remains quite a bad category league fantasy player. Points leagues, he is better. We know the volume is fine. We know that he's getting that, but there's always just something. Is it lack of peripherals? Is it bad percentages? Both of them. That happens often. He is probably still worth rostering, but honestly, no matter what sort of ranking metric you want to use in category leagues, he's going to be sitting like 120th, 130th, maybe 100th. And is that worth it? I think for now it probably is, but we can sit here and go, well, what if Fox gets shut down? What will happen then? Well, he might play 2 extra minutes, but he's already getting like 32 usage. How much higher is that going to go? The other thing that I worry about long-term with Castle is that people go, yeah, he's a rookie, he'll get better. But they brought Chris Paul in, and then they traded for De'Aaron Fox. All to me to say, they don't think he's a point guard. That's how I view all of that. And you could have asked, yeah, well, Paul helps the transition. But then trading for Fox, again, makes me think they don't buy that. Biyombo played only 17 minutes. We are absolutely not rostering him. And that's probably about it in this one. Mamakilishvili got his 10 and Champagne got his 16 minutes. Cool. Got another 2 games to go. So let's do the next one. It is Portland and Golden State. In Golden State, the Warriors win at 130-120. Jeremy Grant was out second half back-to-back, but Deni Avdija returned after missing 2 games in a row, and he returned in an absolutely gigantic way. You couldn't ask for a better return from injury than what Avdija gave. He has been very up and down this season, but 34, 16, and 6 with 5 threes in 41 minutes is an astounding game. We should look at the efficiency numbers, shouldn't we? Because he shot 30? No, that's dyslexia. 73% from the field and 100% from the line. That's ridiculous. 71 from 3. A huge game. Deni was great. He's not always great. He was great here. Simons was pretty good. And we actually got 32 Donovan Clingan minutes, which is actually a huge W. This is one of the best games he's had. 15, 9, and 6 with 4 blocks. He does remain a tough roster guy. But there is enough upside, and the downside's not super, super low, that I think in a lot of cases he can be worth it. The problem here is going to be the Blazers' schedule. They play Wednesday and then Sunday. And in the playoffs, with the history of what Donovan Clingan has done, with 2 more games, with a 3-day break in the middle, I don't think that is worth it. He might prove me wrong. He could easily be the one who proves me wrong and puts up big enough numbers. But it is a long stretch to get there. This is a good game. You got to use it, and then you can move on. Shaedon Sharpe has now had 2 stinkers in a row. What I do like about this is he had 8 assists and 7 rebounds. No defensive stats, but only 29 minutes and 9 points. He's had a couple little heaters throughout his career, but he's never been able to maintain it, and we are struggling a bit here. Easy drop for me on Shaedon. Easy drop for me on Scoot, who had 12, 2, and 4 as well. Well, Jabari Walker hit his 3 threes, and honestly, I think we're a Tamani Kamara drop situation too. Again, this is individual daily streaming category leagues in the playoffs or 1 week before, because it is a dreadful schedule. 2 games with a 3-day break is horrible. Kamara, 7 points, 33%. He did have 4 steals and a block, which is very good, but you can get 6 games in that roster spot, and that will be way more worth it than holding on to him if he is your worst player that plays only 2 quality games from here on out. Now, he might not be. He might be your 3rd worst player who plays 2 quality games, and then you've got to debate whether it's worth streaming 2 slots, which this week it actually is. You can get 10 games from 2 slots in a 4-move week. Versus if you've got 2 quality game players, you can move on and get heaps of value. So don't consider, like Avdija, sure, hold. Simons, probably. But Scoot, Shaedon, Kamara, Clingan, if it's do or die, you will probably get 2.5 times the amount of value out of that roster spot than holding them for that. And I think in nearly every case, like, how do you turn that down? And I know I'm harping on this, but I think it is something that is important, and it is something that gets dismissed a bit. The Warriors side of the game, there was no Kuminga and Podziemski. In post-game, Steve Kerr said that both Kuminga and Podziemski, he expects them back later in the week, so maybe on the weekend, maybe 1 more game out. We got a good Buddy Hield game. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. 25 minutes, 20 points, 6 threes, 7 assists, 2 steals, and a block. In anyone's language, it's an unbelievably good game. Do I care? No, I don't. It's Buddy Hield. I know he won't continue it, and they now don't play for 2 days and have only 2 more quality games this week. I know for a fact that if you stream that roster spot in, or if you resist adding Buddy Hield and get someone who actually plays, you will do better. So, yeah, good game, bud. Thank you. Good to see a little bit of a boost for you, but absolutely not. Jimmy Butler, 15, 10, and 12. Curry was good, and 24 with 4 assists. That's very strong. Then we had the random Gary Payton game. 69% shooting for the Doctor. He had 26 points with 4 threes, 28 minutes. I think we can just ignore that. Same with Quentin Post. He had 4 threes and 4 blocks. 25 minutes. It's an incredibly good game. But 2 more games. Kuminga and Podziemski might return. Not going to be worth your time. Well, Draymond Green, 4, 7, and 4 with 4 steals. Now, I think in a points league, you don't bother holding Draymond this week. I think in a category league, it gets very debatable. I would say that if you are in I am looking down the barrel and I'm probably not going to win, and this is my last-ditch attempt, then he can be moved on from, if you don't have any other worse 2-game players. But he's not that good that you have to sacrifice continuing on in the season just so Draymond can give you 7, 7, and 7 rest of season. Tough decisions at this time of year. I would never suggest dropping Draymond in week 6 or 7 with these numbers. I would say, hey, that's interesting with Quentin Post. Try it until Podziemski and Kuminga come back in nearly every case. I would do the same. Hey, maybe let's see with Scoot and Shaedon or Clingan. That's a really good sign. But not now. For most of you. Roto, different story. Weekly leagues, different story. Sitting on a bye, different story. Also, the idea of... There can be an idea in leagues where you have a bye in the playoffs, I know people are going to ask this question. They go, hey, I've got a bye. Who do I stash? The answer is it's almost impossible to know that because you see how quickly everything changes within 12 hours. Trying to make a decision on what's going to be the best for your roster in 9 days' time is going to lead to you like just cycling through that spot with many different options and still getting it wrong. So if something completely obvious because another team makes a move where they needed to move off of someone, like say a team goes, hey, I just need to move off of Vooch, man. They've only got 2 more games and I don't trust that he's going to play. Like, what do I do? And someone drops him, they grab him and stash him. Like, they're the obvious ones. If you see an obvious top 70 player get dropped, you stash them. Otherwise, trying to make forward decisions for the week after 9 days in advance is tough. Now, you can look at games played and where those games are played and all that sort of planning stuff. That's okay. But remember, most of the decisions you try to make just to try and grab a hot free agent from today to stash him for next week, it's likely not going to be useful. It's almost likely going to be a complete waste of time. Most likely. Now we can do the final game of the night. The Knicks, they cooked the Kings 133-104. The Knicks with the same starting lineup. Juice McBride, really good game. This is the upside of Juice McBride. 21, 3 and 7, 2 steals and 4 threes and shot 64%. That's in stark contrast to the last 2 games where he's been at about 20%. He didn't hit his free throws, but that's a really good game in only 32 minutes. The problem now is that the Knicks play on Wednesday and then only one more game. And I don't think that Juice McBride, even though Brunson is out, is going to be necessarily good enough to hold. You could easily hold him for Wednesday if you wanted to, but after that, it's a clear drop. But yeah, it's great to get this, but don't let it, again, use the math, use the common sense. Don't let it fool you into thinking that this is who he is, because it's not. He's good. He's better than the last 2 games. He's not quite this good, but usually there will be opportunities that pop up for other players if you want to. And if you don't want to drop him, also good. Also okay. But they are one of the 5 teams with the bad schedule coming up. It's them, it's the Kings, it's the Bulls, it's the Blazers, and it is the Warriors. With 2 more games for the week. OG is on a real hot run. 24, 7 and 8 with 4 steals. Towns 23 and 9 with a steal and a block. And then Mikal Bridges, he stepped it up. Oh, sort of not. 15 points is fine. 8 assists is even better. No defensive stats. Got to the line twice. It's not a bad game by his current season standards. But again, when you look at all of this, remember, Landry Shamet played 24 minutes and had 13 with 3 threes and 2 steals. So if you want to get an understanding of how uncompetitive this game was at periods, that should tell you where we're at. We also had a spot where this is how bad it was. The reserves, Anton Watson, Tyler Kolek, Marjon Beauchamp, DeLon Wright, they played 5 minutes. Tom Thibodeau cleared the benches for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And we had Tyler Kolek and Anton Watson play. I think that might... Is that Watson's first ever NBA minutes? I think it might be. Anyway, congratulations to him. But yeah, that's just... Yeah. Understand that is the direction and the game flow of this contest. 5 minutes of Anton Watson. For the Kings, Malik Monk returned. He played just 30 minutes. He had 21, 1 and 3. He did have a trip to the locker room. He returned to the bench, but he never got back into the game. We hope everything's all right there. I think it's fine. But again, when assessing all of this, somehow Zach LaVine still played 36 minutes, but this game was over incredibly early. Valanciunas 10 and 13 with a block. Now consider this. Their next game is Thursday, Friday. Could Sabonis be back for one of those? Yes. Is it worth a hold of Jonas Valanciunas for maybe one more start on Thursday? Probably not, yes. Maybe that start is even Friday if Sabonis is ready for Thursday. I don't think so. There is a decent chance Sabonis does not play the rest of this week. Is it worth a hold of Valanciunas? I would say the odds suggest that if you dropped him, you'd probably be better off. But, again, these are all tough decisions. Keon Ellis, I'd be very much okay with dropping. 9 points in 18 minutes, stealing a block. We hope that these opportunities would elevate him up. Not really. He had a couple of good games. He's hit or miss. He's a steal streamer on specific days when the schedule makes sense. So when we get to Thursday, and we've got a Thursday, Friday back-to-back for the Kings, then yeah, we'll be all in on Keon. Hey, that's great. We might get 60 minutes and 7 steals, 4 blocks, 7 dribbles. Great. Is it worth zeroing out the next 2 days? Probably not. And that's how you should be looking at all of this at this point. DeRozan had a stinker 11 points. Keegan Murray had 9 points. And also, if you want to get really, really cutthroat, he's droppable too. Don't want to say it too loud, but he is droppable too. At this point, again, as most people become droppable, especially in semi-final week, and when the schedule is bad, and all you got left for the week is a Thursday, Friday back-to-back, Yeah. Also remember that when you're in the playoffs, depending on your league settings, but when you're in the playoffs, there are not as many people active on the waiver wire going to grab players. You might have 6 managers active, including yourself. There might be 4 left. So you're not battling against 12 people. It's 3. So you have more of a selection of players available. Remember that part, which I think is something, maybe it's just me that forgets that part. But I don't really think of it that often. I do think it's an important part of it all. All right, let's do some lines of the night. The monstrous line of the night. It goes to the man returning from the quad issue, Deni Avdija. 34, 16, and 6 in a loss against the Golden State Warriors. Your waiver wire line of the night. The best low-rostered performer. It is Lou Dort. 28 with 7 rebounds, 4 steals, a massive bushel of threes. He's streamable. Do not lock him into your roster. The young gun of the night. The best first or second year performer. Denny's teammate, Don Clingan, 15 and 9 with 6 assists and 4 blocks and actually played 32 minutes. He won't do it every game, but that was obviously very strong. While the dud of the night, it has to be Benedict Mathurin, who had 5 points with 2 rebounds and 3 assists, shot 22%, and could likely just go back and play 26 minutes if Halliburton returns in the next one. That is the concern with Ben Mathurin. That, guys, is the end of a 12-game recap on National Wash Your Nose Day. Give the old honker a squirt. Hit the thumb on the video. Leave your comments down below. I don't know what more you want me to tell you. Shout out to Barjas. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.